Welcome back to my channel, the best place for hardworking millennials to gain career clarity and learn soft skills. Building on the last video about career change personality assessments and Jordan Peterson's Big 5 Aspect Scale tool in understanding myself, in this video I'm going to explain his soft skills development approach through personality assessments and development. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell to receive regular updates on all things related to career soft skills and career clarity. I also have a Facebook group called Career Clarity and Soft Skills where you can connect with like-minded individuals who are interested in maximizing their potential. Hi, I'm Dr. John Tam. I have a PhD in sociology from the University of Oxford, and I'm passionate about helping people gain career clarity and build soft skills. So without further ado, let's take a look at Jordan Peterson's soft skills development approach to see how it could help you further your career. To sum it up, here's an excerpt from Jordan Peterson's third lecture on extroversion in his course, where he specifically discusses his position on soft skills development. It's at the 609 mark if you want to be very specific. He says, and I quote, "It is the case these traits are quite highly genetically influenced, and I think the right way to think about that is imagine normal distribution with most people in the middle. There's some reasonable probability distribution that you're going to be born somewhere on that distribution. Then the environment can move you to the right or to the left. But the further you want to be moved, the harder that gets. So if you have a child who's temperamentally inhibited, say on the introverted side and maybe a little bit high on neuroticism, with proper exposure, you might be able to tap them into the normal range. But it's going to be very, very difficult to take someone who's temperamentally introverted and turn them into an extreme extrovert. You're going to hit the law of diminishing returns too. You might be able to get a reasonable amount of movement at a low cost with minimal effort for the first few degrees of movement. But as you continue to push, it's going to get harder and harder, because you're moving against their temperament. Essentially, what Jordan Peterson's saying is that there's a distinction to be made between temperament and personality. Temperament is essentially what is innate and basically it's nature. Personality is what you build on top of temperament, and it is a combination of nature and nurture where things like education, socialization, and the pressures in life affects the overall composition of behaviors, feelings, and thoughts. Now, I purchased the course the moment it came out, and my feeling is that it is priced quite reasonably. It's quite academic, and the transcripts and additional resources are also quite solid. So it's based on very sound science in personality psychology. Jordan Peterson also uses the Big 5 Aspect Scale, which he maintains is one of the most robust ones out there, with approximately 1,400 citations, which is very solid for a social science paper. Jordan Peterson also acknowledges that the questions are open source and taken from the International Personality Item Pool, which is the repository for all questions regarding personality. So the biggest paper it has about 3,000 citations. The other major approach right now is a Neo-PIR, which landmark paper has 14,000 citations. And like I said before, the amount of citations indicates how central they are to academic discussions and not the extent they are right or wrong. If you want to take a free Big 5 personality traits test, you can take one in the descriptions below. It has tailored recommendations based on your outcomes for your career. Are you familiar with Jordan Peterson's approach to soft skills development? If so, let me know in the comments about your thoughts on it. So essentially, Jordan Peterson's approach to soft skills development is for an individual to build relevant soft skills based on their personality. Nudge it over a few points so that you can be a little bit more flexible and don't waste your time on building on the extremities. So basically, it's about building on your strengths and covering your blind spots, and always adjust your job to you rather than the other way around. There are three main points I want to make with this in regards to people at work and also their life in general. First, in personality assessments, it is in the extremities that we see a lot of action. If you are in the 95th percentile for agreeableness, for example, it means that you would probably consistently struggle with getting pushed around by the other 94 people in the office. When you extrapolate that to 7 billion people, you're talking about a whopping 350 million people at the 95th percentile and above, which is pretty much equal to the population of the US. If you blow that up to the other extreme, which are those who are low on disagreeableness, right, 5th percentile or lower, what that means is that you have 700 million people who would generally struggle with trait agreeableness on its extremities. So that's basically 1/10 of the world population. Then you apply that to all of the Big 5, which means that you have a lot of people struggling with extreme aspects of their personalities. I'm not going to do a simple multiplication of 10 because there are strong correlations between different traits, such as introverts also tend to be slightly more neurotic. because of their sensitivity towards stimuli. When we talk about the big 5 personality traits, we usually talk about it using the acronym of OCEAN or canoe. O stands for openness to experience, which measures the degree you welcome new experiences. C stands for conscientiousness, which is your ability to focus or multitask. E stands for extroversion, which is the classic extrovert versus introvert. A stands for agreeableness, which means your preference to putting other people's agenda before your own or putting your agenda first. And N stands for neuroticism, which basically measures stressful and volatile emotional situations. So when we talk about the extremities of the big 5, high O would mean someone who's a super dreamer that lacks implementation. Someone who is super low on O is in a danger of not being flexible. Someone who is highly conscientious would tend to be a workaholic. Someone who is low in conscientiousness would generally lack focus and really be hamstrung by their lack of focus and ability to finish stuff. People who are high in extroversion tend to be social butterflies but can't sit still and focus on deep work. People who are low in extroversion, which are basically introverts, would tend to have people problems and lean towards being extra sensitive to external stimuli. People who are high in agreeableness would tend to get pushed around, and people who are low in agreeableness may have the problem of continuously offending people. For example, people who are higher in neuroticism would probably experience a lot of emotional volatility, and people who are lower in neuroticism would lack sensitivity and basically be seen as quite callous, right? Basically, all of these 10 things that I listed out are all problems that we constantly hear in society, though some problems are more pronounced than others. So basically, by being able to measure the personality traits and knowing that, people who are higher than others, and especially in the extremities, these people would tend to have the most struggle in terms of their personality and need to build soft skills to cover those problems. Second, based on the assessment results, we can strategically plan how to build the soft skills to meet our goals. So for example, if you're an introvert, you would have a larger introversion battery than extroversion battery. Building soft skills for speaking, networking, and how you connect with anyone, so you have the option to go further with your extrovert battery. You're more efficient with it to meet your work goals. If you're a natural multitasker with low conscientiousness, making a deliberate effort to implement habits to focus on tasks would help you a lot. For example, for my clients who are low in conscientiousness, I generally recommend a book like James Clear's Atomic Habits to help them get over the hump. If you're naturally super conscientious, then the opposite would help, right? Opposite meaning scheduling spontaneous time would be a healthy thing. So workaholics, if you're hyper-focused and hyper-achievement oriented, what that means is that taking some time to, walk around and smell and take a break would help you a lot. Third, we need to make a distinction between a pure personality versus a situational or polarized personality. When I say that, what I mean is that even though the mean of your personality score may be 50, there are several possibilities that make it that way. Each trait is a combination of sub-traits or aspects, as Jordan Peterson would put it, which means that 50 could mean different things. However, these are not averaged out because personalities would be weighted differently and they would affect one another. So for example, in the workplace big 5 personality traits, which I discussed in the last video above, one of the things is that extroversion contains 6 subtraits. These scores are polarized, which means 3 of the subtraits are super high and 3 of the subtraits are super low. That would mean that it would create the image that the person is an ambivert, which are those who can handle a little bit of extroversion and introversion, and they can't handle too much of both. However, an ambivert with 2 extremes is different from an ambivert who is a pure ambivert. So for example, a polarized ambivert would be one who would love a day at the convention center, but after that they would need a lot of basically pure alone time to recover, right? So they can handle extremes of both, but they're still an ambivert. In comparison, you have what we call the pure ambiverts, which are those who can only handle the middle. So basically, like a big convention or complete isolation is generally tough, but consistently being in social circles of a handful of people would be healthy for them, right? So that is also an ambivert as well. Understanding that and developing the soft skills to cover for whichever type you are would help a lot. These are just some nuances when it comes to soft skills development to leverage our personality strengths and cover blind spots. So definitely check out my free personality test where I provide feedback specifically for work. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you join my Facebook group, Career Clarity and Soft Skills, to be in a community of people who are interested in building soft skills for their career success and also gaining career clarity. In my next video, I'm going to dive into the problem of agreeableness, so those who are high in agreeableness, and what are things we can do to address problems of being too nice. So be sure to click the subscribe button and click the notification bell to receive the updates when these videos come out. If you like this video, give it a like and leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And also share with your friends if you found this to be valuable. Take care, everybody.